Okay, so here I'm going to kind of skip part of Campbell's book and get us straight to the meat of the matter, getting to the boon, the hero's goal, the magic elixir. So by this point in the story, the hero would have survived various trials and tribulations. He may have had to, possibly accomplish certain tasks set out by some being in the special world, or failed it, such as Gilgamesh, staying awake for a certain number of days. But however, he's gotten to the point where he now gets to reap his or her reward. Now, Campbell talks to the milk that never fails. So here we have an arena where needs are met eternally, which in the ancient world is a real issue. There's no grocery store. The fact that you have food all the time and drink is kind of an important issue, more so than for us today, or at least in this country. Let me not say for us today, for most people in this country. So for the Greeks that we studied, this would be reaching Mount Olympus, and the elixir there would be ambrosia, the drink of the gods. In the halls of Wotan or Woden, one of the pagan gods of the Anglo-Saxons mentioned in that lecture, the warriors sit in the hall and eat the flesh of the cosmic boar. And that flesh keeps renewing itself so that, the food never runs out. And this is also true in the fairy tales of Aaron. Something that we don't study in this class, but something that Campbell mentions, where you eat the self-renewing pigs of Manannan. So these pigs keep coming and coming. You don't run out of pigs to eat. So now all stories, Campbell says, are for the immature and reflections of infantile fantasies, of childish fantasies. So to reach the true boon, the hero must transcend these infantile fantasies and go past them. Now, Campbell at this point in his book talks about Hindu mythology to illustrate the issue of going beyond the gods, beyond the infantile fantasies. And what he believes is this sets the hero into a void, forcing him or her to give what we think of as reality, to give it up, this sense of reality, of what's actually real. So he or she's sort of gone into like a dream world where events occur that are considered fantastic. We wouldn't consider these to be realistic, so much as you would if you were going to a childhood dream. So what I'm saying is that reaching the place of the gods, so Mount Sumeru in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata from India, Olympus for the ancient Greeks, or Valhalla for the Norse or the pagans of Anglo-Saxons, is not the actual end. Not reaching and talking to those gods is not enough. We need to go beyond that. And so going beyond this is that the gods hold this elixir of imperishable being, of eternal life. So the god themselves, by holding that, are the embodiment of what the hero truly seeks, which is grace, the actual power of the sustaining substance, not the substance itself. So this is the plant Gilgamesh secures from the bottom of the ocean and then loses. He's going to take that back to the ordinary world and bring eternal life to everyone, so then nobody has to die like Enkidu did. In many of the myths, the gods do not wish to release the sustaining substance, so the hero must trick the gods into releasing it. Again, why in a lot of these myths, the hero tends to be a trickster, because the trickster is the one who's most capable of accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. Now, Gilgamesh is seen by Campbell as being the epitome of elixir quests, which is one of the reasons why I thought to bring in this hero's journey to this class. And as we saw with Gilgamesh, there's plenty of threshold guardians. There's a challenge which he fails, the staying awake. There's the restriction of not touching the water as he's coming back, and acquiring the ultimate boon, eternal life via the plant, which of course he then loses. So in the real world, however, and here Campbell tends to favor the Eastern view of life. It's not exclusively Eastern, but where he goes at this point in his work is more reflective of Asian and Eastern thought. So he thinks the search for immortality is a misunderstanding of what the myths are saying. He believes the myths are there to teach us to accept life and, more importantly, to accept death, to realize that everything is rising and returning to nothing, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and not to realize this just mentally, just not just a cognitive function, but to really embrace it and to feel it and to understand it at a much deeper level than the mental level, right? And so this is what meditation is all about. This is why Buddhist monks and other people, not just monks. I mean, the Sufis do a sort of meditation with a dancing that they do, a continual circling. It is to get you beyond this sense of the mundane, of just the worldly, into an area of enlightenment, right? And this is what Campbell says, is that you move towards destiny. Moving towards your destiny is like eternity, and moving towards eternity brings you to enlightenment. So, and the problem is that to not recognize eternity brings disorder and evil. So here Campbell quotes the Tao Te Ching, which we looked at last week, and Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching says, the heavenly is like Tao. Tao is eternal. The decay of the body is not feared, because of what you truly made up of is eternal. Now Campbell also says the boon is scaled down for each hero, because what most heroes want is more life, or more years, or weapons to slay his neighbors, or we want health for the child, right? And the irony is, each of them could ask for enlightenment, which is this understanding of eternity, and then he or she would not fear death, and would not suffer, and then would not have this, and these desires. And this is why I say he tends to the Eastern and primarily a Buddhist philosophy here, because enlightenment is the focus of Buddhism. And as I understand it, and then again I have a somewhat limited understanding, this enlightenment comes about because one does not have these mundane desires to extend one's life, etc., and therefore have an acceptance of death and have no fear of death, and how the universe is ordered, and so you just come to peace with that, and you have the tranquility, right? And now, I would say that most religions show that suffering comes from desiring, and most religions tell you not to desire. I mean, one of my favorite sayings is that it is easier for an elephant to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to pass through the gates of heaven, because you can't live a proper life if all you're concerned about is money. All right, so wrapping up here, the journey is for enlightenment, even if the hero does not understand that. And in the normal world, this means personal growth. Now, personal growth is much of the time painful, and so Campbell says the myths are ways to help a person get past these limiting horizons through these painful periods, past the thresholds guarded by the threshold guardians, and allowing him or her into spheres of expanding self-realization, which then makes them a better